And what's on the agenda this week? Oh, just another I am upcycling project right here on Domestic Mix. Here I used an old fleece PJ pants. This is it. I cut it like this into circles using this, a bottle cap, as my template, just like so. I took these circles and stuffed it with this cotton batting. I used my pretty pink thread and needle to create these fluffy balls like this. These are wonderful embellishment ideas. Let's get started. As usual, I find my project piece in the garage. A decent square spongy floor mat. Used but reusable. Eva foam is what it is. After washing and drying the mat well, my flip-flops were placed on the mat and used as a template. I then traced around it and cut it out like this. Easy enough so far. I used a utility knife to cut. It was necessary to punch the holes, but I didn't have that specific type of hole punch. I searched, and you know, one thing about me is I usually always find a way, and so I found this. It worked, but darn, what a workout. See here, I punched my first hole, which brings me to wonder if this is where we get that phrase, punch you out. I'm just being silly. So now I'm just going to do these two. So I use masking tape, my go-to, to mark the locations of each hole. And here I started the process again. So yes, so get the hole punch. I tried to make the holes in both soles at the same time, but that didn't work, and so I had to do them individually. I also forgot to mention that for each flip-flop, you will need 2 soles or 2 layers. Okay, so now we have the second pair cut and ready for the next step. So start with your fabric's right side facing down and the wrong side facing up. We're going to place the first sole down so that if you pick it up and flip it, it will be properly paired with the right one. Okay, so I've placed the masking tape on the bottom of the sole to keep it from moving, and then I flip it to make sure it's orientated in the correct position. And then I use a chopstick and I push the fabric into the upper hole. Notice the pretty design obtained by this action. Flip the sole over again and pull the piece of material through the hole and tape it down. You can spend some time fussing over the design, but it's not necessary. Then outline with a marker about a half an inch, maybe 1 whole inch, past the edges of the sole on both left and right sides, the toe and the heel, like this, and then cut around the perimeter of the line that you drew. Oops, wrong scissors. Okay, I didn't mention that the extra material is needed to fold over and around the sole for coverage. I'm just going to get the glue and then glue it down all the way around. I'm using E6000 glue. Contact cement is recommended, but it is expensive. I already have the E6000, and so I will try that. I first add the glue to the side of the sole, and when I feel I've placed the right amount of glue, I place the fabric onto it and add pressure all the way along. Don't forget to remove the masking tape first. I then moved along to the toe area. The toe area and the heel are the most challenging because they curve. So for these areas, I cut pieces off to decrease the amount of bulk. Remember, this is my first attempt without any instructions. I only researched the type of glue to use and the name of the foam that I was using, Eva foam. I then added more glue to the areas around the toe and heel, and then along both sides. And then I folded down the extra fabric and then pressed to seal. And this is what it looks like. It's not pretty, but it will be hidden. I made sure to keep my 2 holes clear. I match it up, both soles, and they look good. I really didn't think this would be so much work, and I still have a lot to do. Next, I removed the tape that was holding down the piece of fabric here. I pulled some more and poked some more. I wanted to make sure I had enough fabric. I'm using the chopstick to push the fabric through the hole of the second sole, and I fussed around a bit. I really loved the pattern that was made at the toe here. It was purely by accident, but it was a good accident. I just went along with the flow. And next I taped the fabric down again and added the E6000 to the bottom sole and pressed. And here it is. I also added pressure to the entire sole, and I removed the masking tape from the piece of fabric that was poking through that hole. I then cut a piece to open it up to make room for any straps that I would put through. I do believe though that I cut this one too low. Darn. I added glue to the area. Yes, I did cut it too low. I'm realizing that now. I did not pull enough material through to begin with in the first place. Now I'm adding glue to this small tuft of fabric to make sure it sticks in place and stays open. My next step is to cover the sides of the second layer like this. To do this, I cut thin strips of the same material wide enough to cover the sides, toe and heel. When this is all done, and by the way, this fleece fabric is great because you can add pieces together and these joined pieces will not be detected. I then use my chopsticks to measure and mark equal distances of about 1 inch or 2.5 or 2.4 centimeters apart, all the way around the soles. I then use my awl to poke holes into each mark. I use thin yarn from the dollar store and a large eye needle to secure the fabric and foam together, like so. So first, to start off with this step, I'm going to make a knot, a simple knot. And then I'm going to make a second one that will sit directly on top of that first knot. This knot has to be large, too big for the yarn to pass through the foam. This is what I want. This is kind of tricky. So when you make the second knot, draw the loop over the first knot before pulling. Okay, so I've punched out all the holes. Now let's start here, right at the center of the heel. I've poked 17 holes 1 inch apart, and I'm going to sew it while watching TV, or at least watching something. This will take a little time. So I started to sew. Have a look here at the bottom and the top. Here's my technique. I always start from the bottom. I insert the needle into the hole and push upwards through the foam and the fabric. You know, you may very well need a pair of pliers to assist you. And then once out, I insert the needle again through the same point and push to the bottom. If I need to use the pliers, I use it, and I don't have to remind myself to be careful. My next move is to insert the needle through the knot. This is sometimes a little difficult, so I take my time. I still use the pliers even at this point. This sewing step is not absolutely necessary. I do it because I want to keep the fabric in place, because I do not use the glue directly beneath my feet. And then I pull tight. I want the thread to be pulled tightly into the foam. Have a closer look here. And then I trim and I make knots again, and then I follow the same steps as I did before. I'd like to mention here that the sewing can be done before or after the fabric has been applied to the sides of the soles. It doesn't matter which comes first. And also, I would like to add that I didn't follow any particular instructions to make these flip-flops other than just studying a pair of flip-flops and did my own thing. I've always wanted a pair of cozy indoor slippers, and so I just made it myself. Okay, so please tell me, what do you think? And is this something you would try if you haven't already done so? So the sewing and attaching of the straps. This here is the side strap, which is a strap that keeps your feet supported in the slipper. It is about 17 inches long. After sewing, it became longer because while it was in the machine being sewn, it stretched. It is very stretchy material actually. And this is the toe post, and it is about 10 inches. It too stretched while being sewn. I place my toe post one strap at a time using the chopstick, and I position the strips toe to heel and not side to side because the side straps have to be inserted this way. The material is stretchy, so when I try it on, I'm going to measure a very close and snug fit rather than a loose or a perfect fit, because as I wear it, it will loosen. I'm trying it on now, and one small detail that I forgot to mention is that I used the sewing machine to sew the side strap. You only need one long strip, but I hand sewed the toe posts. Of course, you can simply just hand sew both. The fleece material is cozy and very forgiving. So do you see how much it stretches though? Use sewing pins to mark the length you need to secure or cut depending on whether you want to sew down the straps or place it through the holes and glue. I chose to do both. So what do you think? Do you think this is a lot of work? Yeah, when I'm looking back and seeing and editing, I see that was a lot of work. Anyway, add your thoughts if you can in the comments. It will be greatly appreciated. Also, share this video if you can. I'm sewing down the straps right now, and then at the end, I will cut the extra length. And you know, I'm finally done. I added the fluffy balls onto the straps, and I really like these balls. Anyway, here I am with my extra sexy feet, modeling my pink fleece indoor slippers that I made. But friends, really, all jokes aside, I feel like I'm walking on air. And I hope you like these slippers, but I want to leave you with one little tip. Use a pen cover like this to help tuck any materials in between the soles when you're working with them. It really helps. Thanks for watching. Clever ideas, home hacks, and feel-good ideas every week on Domestic Mix.